Hey, we're live, everybody. Hey, we're live. Welcome to New Judges TV. We got there eventually. Lee, do you want to tell everyone why we're struggling?
Well, yes, because I've been there to do all the theatre, and I'm honestly going to say this, it's not me, boys and girls, it is the computer, it was I don't know what was going on, but well, listen, we're live, and I pressed the wrong button and unlived us, and then that's what messed us all up, but we got there in the end, I'm not touching nothing now, I'm not touching it in broadcast until we're done, Dan, until we're done. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you that was as messy as Arsenal's transfer business, that is, I'll tell you but we're live 23 minutes later than scheduled, but we got there,
Yeah, we have got there, man. We have got there, and we are joined, myself and Lee, by Julian. You all know Julian from AFTV. Jules, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Excited to be here. Finally.
You're always excited, mate.
Yeah,
you're always excited.
I'm especially excited today. It was worth the wait.
We'll have to wait. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Let's get into it, man. I'm going to start with you, Julian, because me and Lee come on a couple of nights ago and we had our concerns about the lack of transfer activity to date. But of course, we appreciated that it's still early days. I want to ask you two questions, man.
Can you believe that? Hold on a minute. Bring back Dave in the comments. You know what I mean? Come on.
Bring back Dave. Well, it will be, won't it? It will be bring back Dave. I've had no logins today, so I've been working my way step by step with Lee as to how to do this. But we got there in the end. Jules, I want to ask you how your summer was, mate, and your thoughts now on Arsenal's transfer window this summer.
Okay, well, straight after the end of the season, I escaped. I was away for about 2 to 3 weeks. So I kind of took myself away from Arsenal. I wouldn't say I was despondent at the end of the season, but slightly less excited than usual, even though we ended it with a big win. So I kind of hibernated for a few weeks, took myself away, didn't really want to keep up with it. My philosophy is that when we sign someone, I'll get excited, and I'm not going to get too fussed of all the rumours in and out until it actually happens. I couldn't help myself earlier this week, and I did log on to a few different streams. And although I know that I am at one end of the spectrum, I was surprised how hysterical some people were getting of what they perceived to be a lack of transfer activity, only, unless I'm mistaken, after about 4 or 5 days of the transfer window opening. So for me, it's important of how we end it, not how we start it. So although I kind of understand, because it's been a while of me being involved with these streams and seeing how different people react, I was still surprised of the level of hystericalness that I saw after only a few days.
Lee, a lot of people saying that everyone was jumping the gun, saying that people were going mad because there's only 5 days left and Arsenal ain't done all their transfer window. And I kind of disagree with that, because I don't think it was everyone losing their minds. I think what people were seeing was a lot of activity elsewhere at the likes of Liverpool, Manchester City, Spurs, that perhaps 2 of those clubs didn't actually have to do much business at all because they're already so far up. So I think there were some on Twitter. You're going to get the ones that have meltdowns. That's what happens in this fan base. You're going to get those that go absolutely mental. But me and you did come on and sort of say that we have question marks over the Kroenkes and Arteta, and that this summer has to be a big one. Now, we've started to be linked with some players, albeit we've not signed any huge signings yet, but the links to Jesus, Tielemans, Fabio Vieira, it's all starting to come to fruition now. So what's your thoughts a few days on now that we're into a transfer window of the first week of it being open, mate?
Listen, I'm going to say this now, the fans are entitled to moan and have a little bit of a moan when you look at it, in January, nothing was done. And then come this season, we all know what we needed. And all of a sudden, the people oh, you're moaning and whatever, all of a sudden have come out and saying, oh, look, be patient and all that, on a signing that no one knows. No one knows him. And I'll tell you what, people that turn around to me, if anybody says that they know, if you turn around to me and Dan and said, oh, I've known this player and all that, what's the first thing you would have said? Was his name's Vieira? And if so, everybody would know him if the name Vieira, like, oh, we must sign him and whatever, like, got to have this player, like. No one knows who he is. And all of a sudden, you've got people going, look, Arsenal are doing the business and everything like that. They're not. Exactly. What they're actually doing is they've just bought somebody that we don't know. Listen, it's good business. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know, but I don't know. The reason I'm saying this is because Tommy Hassel, I didn't know nothing about. He turned out to be a very, very decent signing. So I'm not having a moan about the things that are not a signing and everything like that. We know that we need midfield players. We also know we need a striker. So for me, I think that I don't think that this. I'm going to say this. I don't know. First of all, he's not world class because he's not well known. Two, I don't know how many caps he's got for Portugal. I've never really seen him play for Portugal when I've seen him play.
He hasn't got a Portugal cap yet in the first season.
So he hasn't got a Portugal cap, but all of our fan base are going, hey, look at this. This is what we're doing and everything like that. I'm not buying into that. When they've got Tielemans, right, and when they've got Jesus and they've got Vieira and they're coming running out on the first game of the season at Crystal Palace, then I'll be pleased because I don't want to see us playing for going into that game undercooked again, So all these do-goers saying, oh, look, wait out time, see what your time is. Now we've got players and that. Wait until we see what we're doing. We've signed 2 players, Dan, right, in this transfer window that I've never heard of, right? I'm not slagging that off, but we're Arsenal Football Club. When are the players going to come in and I'm going to go, right, this is it. I'm excited. I'll be excited if Tielemans comes. I'll be excited if Jesus comes, I'll be more excited, Dan, when on the 6th of August or the 5th of August now it is, that they are running out in Arsenal shirts and I feel a bit more confident. And people turning around to me, fans on Twitter going, I told you so, be patient and all that. Well, at the end of the day, an unknown midfield player is not going to make me say, right, I'm looking forward and excited at the beginning of this season because I'm not at this moment in time. The areas that we still need to be focused on, which I've seen all through last season, a goal scorer and a midfield player box to box, still haven't been addressed. So 2 signings that I've not heard of and all that, like people can't, are unbelievable. The told you so. I told you so, having a moan at people about not having no signings and all that. Like the same fans that have been very, very quiet for the last couple of weeks and certainly didn't say anything when the January transfer. The same people saying, "Oh, be patient in January," are the same people that are saying it now. So I'd rather not listen to them people. I want to see what Arsenal actually do. People that are moaning and all that, at this moment in time, are moaning because of the past of our transfer activity. They're not moaning just for the sake of it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and that's what I'm saying. Let's get the job. See what we get done. And I'm going to be patient to the end. But I'll tell you that now. When it comes to the 5th of August, if these players ain't on that pitch, these fans on Twitter, these told you so's, I'll tell you this, and slang off the people that are moaning, then I want them to come up and go, where are they? By the way, yes, Eddie is number 14.
Yes, Eddie is number 14.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to quite a bit, actually. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break it down in the journey of the last week because there actually been quite a lot that's happened, albeit no signings, but quite a lot of rumours. But Julian, you're ever the optimist, mate, and I want to ask you a question in relation to this transfer window. Where do you sit with Arsenal's activity and how realistic it is to expect a few signings coming in? And what do you think we actually do need? Let me ask you that. What do you think Arsenal need? If you're Mikel, Arteta and Edu, what positions are you going for, mate?
Yeah, I think if we go from the back to the front, I had high hopes for Tavares when he first came in. I really rated him. And towards the end of the season, he had a big, I think it was that Liverpool game, he made a few mistakes, the one just before Christmas. I think I was with you at the time, Lee. And we kind of gave him a bye. It was Liverpool. It was sort of second half of the capitulation. He was, I would say, responsible for probably 2 of those goals. And then we didn't see him for quite some time. And then when he did come back, it looked like someone just swapped him over. I think the next time I saw him was very, very briefly, was the Forest game, where he lasted for about 20 minutes. For me, it was a shocking 20 minutes. I understood why Arteta took him off, although I would have liked to, a game like that, which we kind of lost anyway, I would like to see him stay on the pitch, because I think anyone can have a poor 20 minutes, I think he's got a chance. But after that, he went steadily downhill. He looked okay going forward, in fact, better than okay going forward, but ultimately he's a defender. And he's a defender that seems to be completely incapable of defending. So on that basis, then I think the first area of concern, especially with Tierney's injury record, is to get a backup left back with the view that he's actually going to play quite a few games. I think I know the stat that Tierney played as many games as the backup left backs. So with that basis, I think this guy, is it Aaron Hickey? I've got the name right. The Scottish boy.
Yep.
He seems to be
Aaron Hickey. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Hickey. I've seen a little bit of him, not a lot. I've read about him, and from what I read and what I've seen, he seems to be very much kind of in the mould to be one for a player that can come in. So left back for sure. Centre half, I think we're pretty covered, especially if Saliba comes back. I think to have 4 centre halves. I know we had issues with the boy at centre half that got sent off against Spurs, but before that, I thought he was good. He got turned by Son a few times. He was slightly naive. I thought the referee was very harsh, but other than that, I've been perfectly happy with him. So I think if Saliba comes back and he's as good as everyone says he is, then I think we're all right at centre half. Right back, Tommy Asu, I've just read, has said that he's coming back as fit as he should be. So hopefully he'll remain fit for the season. I think Cedric, although he isn't the best, we can't expect him to be the best if he's a backup. So I'm pretty happy with him. Midfield, Xhaka, I can't stand him at times. I really can't. He's one of the few players that I get negative about now. But saying that, I've got mixed feelings about him, because at times he's one of the best players, if not the best player on the pitch. So I kind of think that it's his attitude. I like his attitude in one respect. He wants to win. He's not always capable of pulling it off, but I suppose on that side of things, we do need a player that can take things on from him. Plus, Partey, again, his injury record before he came to Arsenal was fabulous. That was one of the reasons we signed him. Since he's come here, he's a boxer with a glass jaw. So we need someone to cover that position. And the obvious positions for me are up front. I think we need, if Eddie does sign, I think we need 2 strikers. I don't think who's the guy that played first game of the season and then went on loan to Middlesbrough?
Balogun.
Other than a few fleeting appearances in the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, he just doesn't look ready yet. So on the basis that he's not ready, I would say that we need 2 strikers. I would have Jesus and a target man. I think we need someone in the kind of Olivier Giroud mold. Alan Smith, someone that can hold the ball up, someone big, a bit of presence up there, and Jesus to go with it. If Eddie does re-sign, which it looks likely that he will do.
Well, let's start with that. Before we go into the links, let's start with this Eddie Nketiah thing. Lee, I want to come to you on this one. My opinion is simple. I don't like it. I'm not going to lie to you, mate. I don't like it. Now, if Eddie Nketiah is going to be 4th choice striker or even 3rd choice striker, I'm cool with it. But my worry is that we're going to have him as backup for the rest of this season. And we know that with a Gabriel Jesus signing, an injury to him means Eddie's back up front. Now, I'm hoping that's not the case. And if Eddie's going to sign and be 3rd or 4th choice, I'm cool with that. 100k a week, the number 14 shirt, does his performances warrant that reward, Lee?
That's a good question. Like, let's get into it with Eddie. Listen, we'll go back to the Chelsea game. in the pub. You was in there, Dan. The fans were singing like, "If Eddie plays for Arsenal, so can I." Like, and that was the chance going into that game before that game. A lot of that was to do with because the team come out and it had Martinelli on the bench and Eddie in there, and the fans weren't happy again really with Eddie, like not with Eddie, with probably Arteta more than anything else, like. But ultimately, he come in and done fantastically well that day, scored 2 goals, and I think from that moment on has been been decent for us, like he's not the finish article by a long chalk. Does he deserve to lead the line at Arsenal? I'm not saying he does or he doesn't, but if he is going to be leading the line for Arsenal, then we're not going to be challenging for top 4 at this moment in time. What he is I think what's going to happen is that Jesus is going to come in. That's what I think is going to happen, and or another 4, because we can be linked with this player, linked with that player, and all of a sudden something comes out of the blue. So I'm not going to tell who it will be and whatever. Like, we don't know who it's going to be, but there'll be another 4 in there, and I think that they'll be battling it together. There'd be no one backup striker and whatever. They'd be like on the same level. 14. I mean, like at the end of it, like he's got 14. Martin Keown's wore number 14. Theo Walcott's wore number 14. Like, does it really matter? Like Thierry Henry wore it. It's not. Thierry Henry's not about no more. Aubameyang wore it. Did he wear it with pride? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So at the end of the day, it's just a number, and I think that we've got to get away from that fact. Is that what I look at it, and I'm going to look at it as a little bit more of a positive, is that the number 9 is not taken, and that means that we're looking for a number 9, a proper number 9. So listen, Eddie gets a 14. I think at times you could say to him, so all right, that's a big shout for him. He's putting that number on his back, and that means that he's a target, isn't it? It's a target then, and he's got to how can I say? He's got to live up to it. And there's part of me thinks, that's quite bold of him to think like, yeah, I'll have the 14. I'm going to embrace it and take it on. Listen, he's turned me around a little bit. Like, I'm not saying he's the real deal, but I didn't think he was good enough for Arsenal. I'm not saying that now. I do think that there's a part for him to play in the squad. I don't think that if we're going to go into this season and go into that 5th of August game with Balogun and him as our strikers, don't forget 5 substitutes as well this season. I don't think that's good enough, and so we'll wait and see. But let's forget about the number situation. Like I do think that I think that him and Jesus will be sharing the load. That's how I see it.
Julian, let's come to you with this Eddie thing, man. I want to get your thoughts on the signing of it. And does the 14 shirt mean anything at all? I think fans are losing their heads about it because it was obviously a huge number for Thierry Henry, and Lee's mentioned Aubameyang and Theo Walcott wearing that number. Does that mean anything to you, shirt numbers, or is it just nonsense to you?
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I would have to agree with Lee. It reminds me of when I used to play football, and the guys that probably weren't going to get picked in the changing rooms, they'll always be grabbing the kind of 9, the 10 shirts, thinking that would be some sort of pass into the team. To me, it was just a number. It makes no difference. Thierry Henry wore 14. That number before Thierry Henry meant nothing. He actually came in as, all right, he was known-ish, but he wasn't a star when he came to Arsenal. We made him a star. Again, the only upside to that is it might inspire. Eddie. I know when I was playing football, I'd wear a shirt playing over the park, and I'd wear a Bergkamp shirt, or I'd wear back in the day an Alan Smith or a Michael Thomas shirt, and it would inspire me because I kind of pretend that I was them. So if he can pretend he's Thierry Henry, then brilliant. But it is just a number. I know it's marketing. Maybe they think they'll sell a few more Eddie shirts with number 14 on the back. So as regards your other statement about does he warrant £100,000 a week, I wouldn't say any of them warrant £100,000 a week, but that's the market. We don't really have a choice. If we wanted to keep him, then that's what we had to pay for him. If he was going to go, another team would be paying him that kind of money. The alternative to that is we'd have to buy in a player at more than that, because we'd have to pay a transfer fee, an agent signing on fee, plus those kind of wages. So in the scheme of things, although I actually think it's wrong in one sense, it's just what the market is. And from a financial point of view, paying him 100 grand a week is cheaper than them going out and getting a replacement that may not work out. Whereas, as Lee said, he does show promise. I liked him from the moment he came on against Norwich in that League Cup. He looked like he had potential. He scored 2 goals. He runs around, he tries hard, which I know is not enough to play for the Arsenal, but it's a good start to actually make some effort. And he's obviously got some capabilities. He showed towards the end of the season he was a handful for defenders. He was good. He didn't, Arteta actually came out and he didn't really give him a chance. And when he did get a chance, he took his chance. He's still a young man. He could improve, and it would really be upsetting if we had let him go. And we have another Gnabry situation where we're buying him back in years to come, not quite at his prime, but a whole lot more money than we let him go at, and we'd have let him go at nothing. So I see it.
You think he could be that good, like a Gnabry?
So when I saw Gnabry, I didn't really rate him. He was okay. He had some potential, but he couldn't get into the. I think he went on loan to either Birmingham or West Brom, and he couldn't.
Yeah, West Brom.
He couldn't even get in there. It's weird. Sometimes these players just click. Something happens for them. He looks like he's got the potential. Does he look world class at the moment? No, he doesn't. Does he look like he's got potential? Yes, he does. Is 100 grand a week a lot of money? It's an extortionate amount of money, but in football terms, it actually isn't that much. It's not going to break the bank. So
Fair
I
play,
would
man.
say it's probably good business, probably, but only time will tell.
Judges, before we go into Jesus, just quickly, 100k a week. Saka needs a new contract. What the hell are we going to offer him then?
Yeah, but Saka will get that. Saka will get more than that. You know what I mean? And quite rightly so.
Oh, he needs to get 150, doesn't he? Yeah, at least.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and they'll give him that. With that will be negotiated and all that. Like at the end of the day, listen, you can criticise Eddie as much. I think Eddie is not liked by the Arsenal fans, and I don't really, and I think it's not really down to Eddie. It's the frustration that Arsenal are not buying players or getting the proper player. That's what the frustration. Nothing to do with Eddie. If Arsenal signed Jesus and they also signed somebody else, and then all of a sudden Eddie signed a deal worth, I don't think people will be so bothered about it, Dan. It's because there's nothing being done.
Yeah.
I think he's being sort of left out to dry a little bit, which is a little bit harsh on him. So listen, he done okay last season, and at the end of the day, he said, "Look, give me game times, and I'll score goals." He done that, 5 goals in 10 appearances. So starts. So you can't ask for that,
Well,
but
he's going to get it now. He's going to stay, isn't he? So
yeah, and ultimately, it may be in Saka's contract that if anybody comes along, that he gets that sort of price. So whatever deal he might be getting a rise because of what's happened with Eddie. No one knows what's in those contracts. But listen, whatever happens, Saka will be looked after. Don't worry about that.
No, you're right. Lee, let's talk a little bit about Gabriel Jesus. 1, do you like the signing? And 2, do you feel that he can bring what perhaps we're lacking in terms of mentality? Because I think that for me is key. He's a winner. He looks to be in the right mould of frame of mindset for me. He's a workhorse. A lot of the Man City fans are saying, we don't want to lose him. We really like him. He'll do really well at Arsenal. He's only scored 9 goals last season, so it's not a player that is prolific in front of goal. But are you excited by this signing, Lee?
No, I'm not excited by any excitement at this moment in time. Listen, I wasn't excited about Tomiyasu. I wasn't excited about Ben White. Certainly wasn't excited about Ramsdale. But they turned out to be bloody good signings for us. So I'm not going to get a jump on the thing. What will excite me is a proper marquee signing. But unfortunately, Arsenal are not in that business no more. That if you want marquee signings under Kroenke, we're going to have to go and support the Rams. That's how it is. You know what I mean? That is true. But what we're going to get is signings that are going to help us progress, and you can't with the main signings last season. They done really well. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's not an exciting one, but it's one that intrigues me. Reason why? Because he showed potential last season when he come into the side. It's all the fans going, it makes me laugh. I'm not picking out names and all that, but a couple of my mates turn around here and saying he's a great signing, like, you know. And then in the same breath saying that, oh, Manchester United, Manchester City would have won the league if they had a striker. Do you know what I mean? Like, so all of a sudden now, like, you know, oh, really? You know what I mean? Like, there you go. But what I do think is that he's been a big part player at Manchester City. But what might come with it now, the little bit of experience that he's got and everything like that, he's going to come as the main man and take that on board. You know, that, listen, when he goes, I said this on a podcast today, when he goes into a team meeting on a Friday at Manchester City, he's not too sure whether he's in the team or not. You know what I mean? Like, could be in the team, could not be. When he's in the team, like, oh, I've got to perform because I might not be in the team next week. He's going to come in here with a different mentality. And it walks into that team meeting on a Friday. He's got the number 9 shirt. He's going to be like the main man. And it may go big for him, like, and that may be what he needs, you know. Listen, he was a player that before he went to Manchester City, massive potential. If I'll be honest, if he's probably one of those players that probably should have gone not to Manchester City at first, you know what I mean? Like, got his name first and then gone to Manchester City. Like, but listen, we're gonna take a player that's 25 years of age, still not at the height of his powers. When he gets chances, I'll give him that. He takes them, and that's something that we need, you know. And listen, I'll go on to a lot of other things, you know what I mean? Like, people keep going on about the 14 with Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry wasn't exactly a prolific goal scorer at Juventus. And I'll be honest, once we lost Anelka, and anybody who remembers that, like, when Thierry Henry came, was everybody excited that Thierry Henry had signed for Arsenal?
I've never even heard of him.
No, so, like, you know, like, they wasn't, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, listen, this hopefully he gets in there. We get Tielemans as well. And listen, if and I'll say this now, if Jesus are signed, right, and along with Vieira, just then this month, I'll be a little bit more confident going into the game against Crystal Palace. If they're not signed, I'm not going to be confident at all. So Arsenal have got a choice now, Dan. If they don't get these transfers sorted out and we have a poor start like we did last season, we ain't going to recover when you look at our October fixtures. So we're going to be really up against the black ball, behind the black ball. So it's important that Arsenal get their finger out and sort out these transfers before the season starts. I can't emphasise that enough. And that's what they need to do.
I can't stress that enough either. We saw what happened last time we were playing Brentford, Chelsea and Man City with our reserves. It's just a shambles, really, and sackable offences. Yeah. But I look at this now and think, learn from your mistakes and don't have that happen again when we face Crystal Palace, which, let's be honest, will be a tough game on Friday night. Julian, let's get your thoughts on both Jesus and Fabio Vieira. I didn't know much about Fabio Vieira, but from what I'm doing in terms of research and looks on YouTube, which I'm always a little bit dubious of because it makes Mustafi look like Cannavaro if you do that. He looks like a player that can find a pass. He's got some vision. He's got 14 assists and 6 goals last year for Porto. He's not a regular starter for Portugal or for Porto, to be fair to him, because he's a young lad of 22. Looks as if he can play in an attacking 8 or in a number 10, and there's rumours that he can play wide also. Gabriel Jesus is a player that we all know very, very well from the Premier League, so I suppose that one's less risky. But signings are always risky because you don't quite know how they're going to fit in. Do these two fill you with any excitement, Julian?
Okay, so I'll admit something, as I think quite a lot of us were in the same boat probably 24 hours ago. I've never heard of the guy. Since he's looks like he's signed, he hasn't quite signed, but it looks pretty much nailed on. I've been listening to a few podcasts, doing a bit of research on him. Ultimately, I do have faith in Arsenal's recruitment at the moment. I've seen the kind of players they brought in last year. I also had faith in the January transfer window. For me, I know we had that discussion on AFTV, bit of a bullying session, but it was quite an interesting hour or so. But I thought they did the right thing in January. If they couldn't get the players they wanted, don't bring in. Just don't bring in a second-rate player just for the sake of pacifying the fans. So I've actually been supportive of the last 2 transfer windows. Again, like Lee said, he might have not been excited by the players that have been brought in. I hadn't heard of Tommy Atsu either. Ramsdale, I knew of. It wasn't that inspiring, but I had faith that those players would work out. At one point, it looked like every single one of them was going to work out. At the moment, Tavares looks like he may well fall by the wayside. So even though I hadn't heard of Vieira, when they signed him, I thought, well, they're not throwing money around Arsenal just for the sake of it. They're not a Man City, they're not a Chelsea, they're not a Newcastle. I sincerely believe that with a new regime in place, then people say it's only 30 million. 30 million to me is still a lot of money, and it's not money that you'd want to waste. So the first thing was I had confidence that they're not going to throw that money away. There must be a reason why this guy has been signed. For the last day, I haven't done extensive research. I've read a little bit. I've watched a few different podcasts on him, people that have done research. I've read a little bit of journalism on him, and I kind of get it. I understand why they brought this kid in. He does look good. And again, I did what you did. You have a look on YouTube. You can't help yourself. But I know you had your Mustafi YouTube moment. I had the Xhaka YouTube moment. So I do understand that YouTube can quite skew exactly what a player's like. But seeing some of those passes that he's put together, I mean, that wasn't special effects. That was genuine passes. He does look like the real deal. And the reason he hasn't been involved with Porto and the appearances have been quite low was because on last season, at the beginning of the season, he was fighting his way in. Towards the end of the season, I think he played about 2/3 more in the second half of the season than he did the first half of the season. It was his breakthrough season. So he does look like the real deal. He's got a lot of potential. My concern would be his height and has he got the physicality for the Premier League. But then in recent times, we've had players like Cazorla, who was tiny. And for me, he was one of the best players we've had in the last decade. So maybe that's not as big a deal as we all think it is. He can play different positions. Is he an understudy for Odegaard? Possibly, but then when you look at the positions he plays and the balls that he puts in, it's a slightly different heat map than Odegaard. And one thing that I think we've lacked, it wasn't just the fact we didn't have a striker. I don't think we were creating the chances either last season, is that it just seemed to dry up. Although we were creative, it got a little bit predictable. But if he's coming from a different angle, then that does just gives us that different side of things that may well be able to unlock a defence. We've seen so many times, not just last year, but all since I've supported Arsenal, is teams that lesser teams than Arsenal come to us and they just try and defend. You need something special, one of these kind of weird and wonderful Ozil type balls just to unlock a defence. But again, the difference between him and Ozil, from what I can see, is the guy puts some effort in. He tracks back. He looks like he wants to get involved. So potentially he can play a little bit deeper. He can play maybe instead of Xhaka. It's not a direct replacement or an understudy for Odegaard. For us, financially, we're not as well equipped as some of those teams that I mentioned. So if you can get players that can fill in different positions, then we hopefully can cover the issue that we had last season, where we were really short in certain areas. So if you've got versatile players, they can come in. And something else we didn't see last season was Ben White playing a defensive midfield role. Because if Saliba comes in, maybe it doesn't mean sort of 2 out of 3. Maybe Ben White can be pushed slightly forward and play as a defensive midfielder or as an understudy to Partey. So it looks like we are filling positions, but we're filling positions with players that can fill more than one position. So on that front, I don't know enough about to say it's going to be a terrific signing, but I understand it. And I do have faith in the process that they're not going to just spend 30 million frivolously.
Well, Lee, let me talk to you about this signing, Fabio Vieira, because if he's coming in, for me, it's going to give competition. I don't think he's walking straight into the 11 because he plays as an attacking 8 or a 10. And at the moment, we've got Odegaard, we've got Partey, and then obviously that other position looks like, we'll come into in a minute, Tielemans is linked to come over in that side. So I think it's going to give healthy competition. And I'm totally cool with that. A lot of people get it into their heads. 1 minute they say we've got no strength in depth, and the next minute they're complaining because Saka might be pushed out the side. That, for me, is just, they're not compatible, them two things. They can't go. We never ever complained when Cardew and Wiltord weren't getting ahead of Henry and Bergkamp. We never complained that Parler and Edu weren't getting a look in because Gilberto and Vieira were ahead of them. We just got on with it because we had a squad. When we signed Reyes, nobody said, oh, what happens to Pires and Lundberg now? What happens when Van Persie and Fabregas need a chance and they can't get in the team now? We got on with it because we had a squad. And I think that's how far we've dropped, that we have a squad of 13 players and people are worried that Saka and Martinelli might not play 38 games a season when actually they should only be playing 15, 20 anyway. And that's in all competitions, in my opinion, for their ages. So where do you see these signings, if we do get them, in terms of Tielemans and Fabio Vieira for Arsenal, mate?
I see. I want these players to improve what we've got, Dan. Like the players at the moment, this midfield hasn't got us to a Champions League spot in 4 or 5 years. The forwards haven't got us into a Champions League spot in 4 or 5. I'm worried about the other players coming in because, let's face it, these players are not good enough to type. And any one of them at this moment is not good enough to challenge for a title. You know what I mean? So, like you're thinking to yourself, oh, right, well, we've got to improve it. We've got to improve everywhere. We've got, how you start off is by 1 or 2 coming in, hopefully like the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe and Martinelli get better and better as they go up, as they get older and everything like that, because they've got a good ceiling, but you want them to hit their ceiling. But there's certain players in this team that have been here 3 or 4 years and have done okay, but not good enough. So the likes of Vieira come in and see what he's like. As I said, no one knows what he's like. We can all look at YouTube clips and that. Like, I'm pretty sure we can put me and Julian on a YouTube clip of playing football when we look half decent. We know that, But at the end of the day, those YouTube clips have come from professional games of football, and you go from there. Listen, when it comes to signing players, I've got not a problem with Arsenal's ability to sign players. Over the last year, they've brought in some very, very good players. And over this regime, they've brought in players like Martinelli, who's been very, very good. And they've brought in Tommy Hassel, and they've brought in players that have been decent for us. Gabriel. Did anybody hear of Gabriel before he come to Arsenal?
No. I did, to be fair, but I did. Yeah, fair enough if you didn't.
But bloody good central defender. So at the end of the day, they've brought in good players. So I've got no doubt that Vieira will be as well. Listen, sometimes, and I'm going to be really honest with you, 72 million for Pepe. Has that worked? When we've gone, has that worked? You know what I mean? So not necessarily because you're spending a lot of money that it works. So I'm going to say, look, I don't know. Let's go from there. But I'll be very, very disappointed over the next week, Dan. If I'm going to be really honest, I'm going to be very, very disappointed if Tielemans and Jesus are not in that squad. And I'll be even more disappointed that when we go on to tour of America, that these players are not involved. I want the team involved in not so that they can get some training and we can be prepared and ready for that first game. So I think the next week is going to be very, very important to Arsenal. There's lots of talk now that the fella Martinez from Ajax has been rejected at 30 million. Arsenal are spending money, Dan. Let's get it right. You might not be spending hundreds of millions, but they're spending 30, 40 million pounds on players. Now, at the end of it, Jesus, 40, 50 million is a good deal. Why? Because he's in the year of his contract. You're going to get Tielemans for 25 million. 1 million on Twitter. This has been agreed. Now, if that has been agreed, the reason that he's 25 million is because he's a year of his contract left. It's still be good, very, very good business at the end of the day. Now, people will turn around and go, oh, like Basuma, 35 million. You get Tielemans for 25, and at the end of the day, it's a better deal, isn't it? One, he's a European-based player. Two, so he's not going to be going to African nations and things like that, travelling thousands of miles around. And also, he's what we actually need. What Arsenal need to do, Dan, more than anything, is inject goals from their midfield. Now, I don't know if Vieira does that. I'll be honest, I don't know. Tielemans does. He does get 5, 6, 7, 8 goals a season. Well, we need to add that to our game as well. We need to add that. Listen, I'm not going to lie and I'm not going to stand here and sit here there. Did I want Basuma at Arsenal? Yes, I did. But he's done. He's gone to Spurs now. We've got different options. Now, the fact of the matter is, because he wanted to come to Arsenal and we wanted him at Arsenal, doesn't mean to say that Arsenal did go in for him all that. They might have inquired for him and thought, do you know what? Tielemans is a better deal. We'll wait and see that. But at the end of the day, if only Vieira comes in, that ain't good business.
Yeah,
It's only been
100%.
going on a week.
I'm laughing.
Transfer
I'm
window.
laughing.
That's why
I'm laughing
I don't-
at. I'm laughing
Go
at
on.
Mark's comment in the chat. Sorry, he just said if anyone would like to listen to Lee's earlier stream of 5 seconds, then please tune in. It made me laugh. The
Pretty usual for Lee, 5 seconds, isn't it?
yeah.
That's probably their best show. That was like to be
That was
honest.
the best show we've done in a long time. No, listen, you make a lot of good points there, Lee, and I must admit, there's links with Tielemans, there's links with Fabio Vieira, there's links with Gabriel Jesus. The other two players there's links with, Julian, is Osimhen from Napoli, the centre forward, banging in goals, 23, scores one every other game. For both Lille and for Napoli, he's managed to get a good scoring record. And the other player, of course, is Martinez from Ajax, left centre-back and can play left-back. Apparently very aggressive and was one who would like to injure a few players in the Dutch league from what I hear today. So those two players look like they're heavily linked as well. You've mentioned Aaron Hickey already and Zinchenko. We get all these names thrown at us. Let's start with Osimhen. How important is it for you? You said earlier that we had to get two strikers. How important is it for you that we get a striker that's on form? Because for me, it's about form players. I don't really like these players that are kind of has-beens. You know, like when we signed David Luiz and Willian and we signed Lichtsteiner. They're all has-beens for me. I need to see players that are on form. And that's why the striker for me needs to be a Tammy Abraham or an Osimhen. Them two would be good for me because they're on form. I don't know much about this Martinez guy, if I'm honest, from Ajax. But, of course, that's kind of a backup player, I would imagine, anyway. But what's your thoughts going into those two players, mate?
On the left back, yeah, I just need a player. I kind of like. I don't want to see a player go out and hurt another player deliberately, but I do want to see a little bit of, a bit of spikiness, a little bit of evilness in a player, and I think we have lacked that, especially under Arsene Wenger. It was all very pretty, sort of almost like ballet at times. There isn't extra points for artistic impression. A goal's a goal. So we did lack that little bit of ruthlessness. So if we get a player with that kind of evil streak in him, although I don't want him going out to deliberately cheat, you don't have to cheat and go out to hurt someone to be a hard player. You can tackle hard, you can play hard, you can be competitive and still be fair. So if he is that kind of player, then yeah, I'd be supportive of a player like that coming in. But I think Tierney's like that. Tierney brings a little bit of steel. I always like the idea of him coming to training with a Tesco's carrier bag. He's not in it for artistic impression. He's in it to perform. And if you bring in a player with that mentality on the left side, we do need a left-sided defender. And if he can play fullback, great. But is he capable of getting forward? Because one thing about the modern fullbacks is it's not just about defensive capabilities and being hard. It's about how nimble you are, how quickly can you get up the field. And to be fair to Tavares, that's what his strength is. If he could just combine that with a little bit of defensive nous, I think he's still got potential to be a really good player. As regards the strikers, I want to see two types of strikers. I want to see Jesus here because of all the reasons we've discussed. But I also want to see a bigger target type man, someone that can hold the ball up, maybe come on in certain games, come on as a substitute where you kind of you may have the tactics go out the window and you just want to hoof that ball forward, get it in the box. And at the moment, we've got no player that you can really get it and hoof it into the box. At corners, we're relying on our defenders. We haven't got any big players up front. So if you can get one of these big guys, someone that's good in the air, Calvert-Lewin was always the one that I had my eye on. But this season, with his injuries, he's taken a step back. Whether we can nick him at a cheaper price because of that, get him in, and he's still got potential. It depends what that injury situation is. If that injury situation is going to like the rest of his career, then we'll need to kind of keep well clear. But we definitely, in my view, need a forward, two types of forward. We need Jesus, and we also need a target man. So if this Osimhen, I mean, the reality is I don't know much about him. I mean, he's a big guy. What kind of striker is he?
So he's not big in terms of height. He's not like a 7-footer type big unit of a man that's great in the air. He's a bully, a proper bully boy, strong lad. but I don't know how tall he is. I imagine he's just under 6 foot, striker. I don't think he's, someone in the chat will probably be able to tell us, to be honest. But he's not one of the Tammy Abraham types or Olivier Giroud types, but he's a bully boy. And he's banging them in. So it would make sense in terms of form. Scamacca is the other guy that people are leaving from Sassuolo. I think that's another striker, 6'5", more of a target man.
I've seen a little bit of him.
In. He's the sort of one that I think a lot of people are looking at profile-wise.
I think what we need is a combination. What I don't want to see is another player, bring Jesus in, and then another player like Jesus that would just be nearly as good as him to come in and replace him. I want to see a player that's different, give us different options. So, and we've got in the midfield, if we've now got Vieira coming in, who can play slightly differently and create slightly different chances, we need different types of strikers. Bring it on, alternate it. So when we bring on a substitute, it changes the game because the opposition are taken, they don't have time to prepare. That last 20 minutes, they've got something different to contend with. And it takes them 20 minutes to get used to that. So in that 20 minutes, we can get that equaliser or get that winner rather than the same again. Or just, someone slightly fresher, but the same sort of thing again. I always like mixing things up.
Yeah, fair play. Before I come to Lee, Jules, I want to ask you two things. First of all, how many players do you think Arsenal need this summer? And then realistically, how many do you think will sign?
Right. The other thing for me is I don't want to see too big a squad. And the reason for that is I think one of the reasons we benefited and the kind of squad morale was so good towards the end of last season was because it was a very tight squad. I wouldn't say we got unlucky with injuries. Our luck ran out with the injuries and we suffered for it towards the end. But one thing we benefited from was the fact that it was a very tight squad and things were working with that tight squad for a long time. It wasn't until that Crystal Palace game happened and we had those two severe injuries, season-ending injuries. So how many would I like to bring in? As I said, a left-back, two more midfielders. And bearing in mind, we've had, I keep losing track of names. Who's the Egyptian boy for 7 million that re-signed? El Neni. The fact we've re-signed him gives us a little bit of backup there. So I think we need two new midfielders and we need two strikers. So I would say a minimum of 5 players, but they've got to be the right players. No good just filling them for the numbers. I want 5 correct players. 5 to 7 would be good enough for me.
Okay. Okay.
With the players we've brought back,
do you think we'll get that?
Re-signed.
Do you think we'll get that?
I think we'll get at least 4. I would say we need 5.
Okay. See, I think we need more than that. I think we need more than that. Personally, listen, if we want to go compete with Liverpool and City, you're going to need like another 11, personally. But if you want to look at where we're going realistically, I think we need 8. I think we need 2 fullbacks. I think we need 2 midfielders. I think we need 2 centre forwards. And I think we probably need a winger and attacking midfielder. And it looks like we're hopefully going to get a lot of those covered. Lee, what about you, man? I feel like 8 is the number in my head. I feel like we'll get at least 7. I don't know if they're going to be the ones we want, but I feel like 7 signings will come in. Because last summer we saw 6, and if the rumours are true about Kroenke giving more money than last summer, I think we've got a hope to get more than 6. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think that. I think we need 4 by that first game, so the 5th of August. I think we need 4. And then obviously another couple after that. Don't forget, I know Julian says about tight squad and all that. I get that, but ultimately we've got European football this time around. That's another minimum 12 games, so we can use the squad there a little bit more to keep everybody happy and a little bit more tight unit. And also, don't forget 5 substitutes next season. So there's a little bit more option from the bench and everything like that. So I think that we need to strengthen in areas. Listen, I think that. We've got couple of players coming back as well from loan that I would keep. Obviously, Saliba being one, so I don't count him as a signing. I'm not going to count him as a signing. Reece Nelson I think's had a quite successful loan. The rest of them have been poor. Maitland-Niles, poor loan, just tells you everything you need to know. Torreira wasn't a bad one, but ultimately he doesn't want to be here. So, but we need to strengthen, like, so Saliba and a left back and I think someone that can do that job. They're obviously looking at targeting in that there. Definitely, like, Tinnemann's coming into the midfield. That gives us a good base of 4 or 5 midfield players. I still think then, like, to just freshen it up in the squad as also, I think another wide player coming in. I don't, for the life of me, I think, if I'll be honest, I'll wait to the end of the window, maybe try a little cheeky one for Zaha or someone like that with a year left of his contract. Pepe, I would try and sell, because it's nothing against Pepe, as I've said. I just don't think that he's rated by the manager. He's not going to get the opportunity. I think it's time now to bring that stat up, Dan, that you told me yesterday, like, what I mean, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Go on, bring it up.
It actually is. It actually is. I'm going to see if anyone, the answer, Lee. I'm going to see if anyone in the chat can guess it. I'm going to ask Julian if he can get it as well, because I speak to Graham Brooks. I can't take the credit. It was Graham Brooks. He's a stat man, and everyone knows he's a stat man. Spoke to him yesterday, and he said, if I was to ask you who's Arsenal's top all-time scorer out of the current players that we have now, who would you go with? And I said Saka straight away, and I misunderstood the question. I said that was our top scorer of last year. He said, but who is the one who's got the most goals now? And he said, if you think that Kane's got over 190 or nearly 200 in all competitions, Ronaldo, Sterling, all these players, who is Arsenal's top right now? There's people that are getting it in the chat. Who do you reckon, Jules?
In the current team?
Yeah, of all-time tops.
Of all time, at all clubs, or just Arsenal? Just
at Arsenal. In Arsenal, just whoever's at Arsenal right now, who's the one who's got the most goals? The answer is 27. How shocking is that? Not 127, 27.
Is it Eddie?
No, it's Pepe. And he doesn't even play. So that's how poor it is right now. Well done in the chat, by the way, because a lot of people got it.
Yeah. Well, that just tells you everything you need to know. Yeah. So when people turn around and say, we need to strengthen, I think maybe 2 or 3 positions up front, like, you know what I mean? Like, I would definitely be looking for another wide player, someone like Zaha, someone like that who's in the year left of his contract, and I would be looking to offload Pepe. Not, as I say, nothing personal, but take him down. Then it goes from 27 to 10. Then, like, you know what I mean. So it is a bit of a worry.
It's a massive worry, mate. Yeah. And when I heard it, I couldn't believe it. But then I actually looked and thought, yeah, I can see why. Because everyone's gone. Lacazette, Aubameyang, and all of the old school have gone out with the old, in with the new, so to speak.
I didn't realise it scored as many as 27. I'm trying to rack my brains in all the goals.
Yeah. Well, he scored 16 last season, didn't he? Season before last, he scored 16. Yeah, so he had a good season then.
5 in the last 10 games.
Yeah, and then he ain't really had a run of games to score, and when he has, he's not really taking it, has he? But my point is, we're struggling, and the players we link with, and I will say this, boys, the players we link with are in the right positions.
Yes.
That's a good thing, for me. That's positive for me to know that we got Leno leaving, a backup goalkeeper coming in, Bellerin, Maitland-Niles, and Cedric. We're not too sure what's happening at right back. It might be that Ben White goes and plays over there. I don't like that personally, or we might just keep Cedric and have him as an upgrade. I don't like Ben White there. I don't like him in defensive midfield either. I want our players playing in their strongest position. I don't want them all dotted around. Oh, he can just cover there for a game or two. Hate that. We tried doing that with Granit Xhaka and it was just a disaster. So let's just buy players if we need a backup player. I think with our left back situation, Tavares looks to be going, and of course Kieran Tierney needs to keep fit. From what I've been told, he's had an operation which now prevents him from the niggling injuries he kept getting. I don't believe that. I spoke to Lee about it yesterday. I don't believe that. I think it's nonsense, operation. If I'm honest. What is that operation? What does that mean? Why would you play football with...
There's no operation that can stop you getting an injury.
No, I agree, but I think that what they were meaning was there's an injury that keeps repeating, and now he's had his operation which he needed. I don't know how true that is, but the left back I believe will come in at the moment. It's looking like that Ajax lad, or of course Aaron Hickey, or who knows, we might even get both. Tielemans, Fabio Vieira, Jesus, and Osimhen. talks as well of Gnabry and Rafinha. I don't see Gnabry happening. I just don't see it happening. Apparently he wants 350k a week from what someone was saying, so I'm not so sure that we'll pay that for him, because that means that Saka and all the others will want that as well. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good player and I'd love to have him back, but I would rather probably go with Rafinha because he's doing it right now in the Premier League and he's got a higher ceiling. So that would be a really good signing for me. And I think that although people might go, oh my God, what happens to Saka or to Martinelli? I don't really care, if I'm honest, because they can't be playing week in, week out. So there are some positions there that we all need, that we are being linked with. My one worry, boys, lastly, is if Partey gets injured, because Bissouma for me would have been perfect. If he gets injured, I don't have faith in Lokonga, Elneny or Xhaka. And I feel like there's a position there that we do need to fill. And I just wanted to get, lastly, your thoughts. We'll start with you, Lee, on both the injuries of Thomas Partey and Kieran Tierney. And how long do we give them until we have to say, do you know what, boys, enough's enough, because you just can't stay fit?
Well, enough's enough for me already, because the proof's in the pudding. And I'll say it like that, I'm going to keep it very, very brief. They could not last a season without European football.
Great point.
Big worry.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Julian?
Yeah, it is a real worry on both of them. I mean, I was so looking forward when Partey signed. I thought he was the answer. That was going to be it. And at times he's looked exactly that. He's looked like the answer. But for some reason, he just can't stay fit. And I just don't understand how a player with such a fabulous injury record comes to us. And as Lee said, he just cannot stay fit. So we cannot rely on him. So we do need a player worthy to take the place rather than what we consider to be a backup player that can come in for the odd game. Because as we saw the last few seasons, it's not just the odd game. But Elneny came in, and the last time he came in, he didn't let us down, and he did a job, and that's the reason why they've re-signed him. So maybe he's got over. I always look and try and be positive. Maybe he's got over his injury problems, and now he'll come back. He's had a rest, and he'll come back, and we'll see the Partey that was at Atletico Madrid. We won't have an issue. We won't have to see Elneny. But if we do need him, he comes in. And as I mentioned before, the other option is if we've got Saliba coming back to us, and he is as good as people say, then it would release the extra centre-half, which is Ben White, that again could cover there. He's played there before, and apparently he played very well there. He hasn't played for us there, but he's played in the Premier League in that position. So, again, it's utilised. I know you said you don't like having players just kind of utility players, but that's the way we need to compete. We need to be a bit clever, because we just don't have those sort of funds. So we do need to kind of do that. So it's not the perfect solution, but it is a solution to a situation that may occur. Hopefully won't, but no.
Fair enough, man. Listen, Lee, I'm going to let you have the last word before we wrap up, mate. If Kroenke does back Arteta and gives him the funds that we need to fund 8 positions that we're talking about, where do you stand with Stan Kroenke, and where do you stand with the pressure that will be on Mikel Arteta going into this season, mate?
If it's backed, and we've got it going into the first game of the season, right? I'm going to say it now. No excuses. No excuses from the board, because they've backed the manager. I don't want no excuses from the fans backing the manager and whatever. Results will dictate. And this will go on a dictating world of results. Let's hope that the players come in and Arsenal can get off to a good start. If Arsenal get it right in the transfer window, Dan, they get off to a good start this season, because the games are favourable for us. They're not really, they're not, I'm not saying you guarantee winning games, but you'd say, I'll tell you what, that's not a bad start. It could be a lot worse. No excuses. No excuses whatsoever. Don't want to hear none. Don't want to hear any excuses for next season.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. And I don't want to hear this isn't his squad. I don't want to hear we need more windows. I don't want to hear he needs to be backed. I don't want to hear the board haven't backed him and it's Edu's fault because the signings aren't good enough. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. Conte managed to get Champions League football with 1 window after signing 2 players. So no more excuses, mate. You've signed about 25 by the time we're done. So I want to see you get us in the Champions League. And if you don't, then it's good night and see you later. That's as far as I'm concerned. Julian, do you agree with that? Do you think that's fair to say that he needs Champions League football if he's getting all these players in that we're expecting?
it's really difficult.
So yes or no answer.
I expect it, but if it's the same as last season and we get a cup, we win a cup, I'd still settle for fifth and get something, because we've got 2 chances now of getting into the Champions League.
Yeah, I'll take that. Europa. I'll take fifth in the Europa League. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, fifth in the Europa League that I would take.
He keeps his job.
He keeps his job.
There we go. Guys, it's been a great stream. Julian, I want to thank you for coming on, making your debut on Lee Judges TV, mate. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Finally
Good,
right.
man. Apologies for the technical issues at the
We
start.
might get some more technical issues now because we're about to log out.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned, people, because we're gonna say goodbye, and I'm gonna let Lee Judges press the buttons as we say goodbye. Do us a favour. Smash the like button. If you are hanging about later on, head over to the Gooners podcast. I'm going to be jumping on there at 9 o'clock and talking all things Arsenal. But smash a like and subscribe on this video before you head out. Until then, we'll see you next time, and up the Arsenal. Send us out, Lee.